Hello, I am Megan Trick, and today I will be doing a presentation on cryptocurrency in the modern day, made by me. Unfortunately, tech issues can't show the screen and my camera at the same time, but without further ado, let's get into it. To put it simply, cryptocurrency is a form of currency that only exists digitally. So let's say, unlike the American dollar, you can squish it, you can tear it apparently. Um, But it's a physical thing you can interact with in the real world, unlike cryptocurrency, which you can only interact with digitally. Usually, cryptocurrency has no central authority issuing its production or any form of regulation on it. So what that means is, unlike the real world, where you normally have, like, say, let's say the government or the banks producing currency, you don't have a cryptocurrency. Instead, cryptocurrency is mined by people like you and me. Cryptocurrency is also traded between people. This is done using a software that is known as a blockchain, or in other words, a distributed ledger technology. That's a bit of a mouthful, so they use blockchain instead. And basically, the way the cryptocurrency and the blockchain works is, in order to get cryptocurrency, you have to mine it. So, what happens with that was when someone says they mine cryptocurrency, what that means is that they have a computer or a PC, and that PC is running uh, lots and lots of very technical and hard to solve math equations that like a normal person could not do. So instead, they get a computer to do it. And that is how they verify those person to person transactions, and that's also how new Bitcoin is made by mining it like that. So, now that we know how Bitcoin works, let's get into the problems with it, unfortunately. Cryptocurrency, as it exists now, has its fair share of problems that makes it unappealing to the average consumer, which is only exacerbated by how often it is used to scam people out of their money. Cryptocurrency, because of its unregulated and decentralized nature, means that it is incredibly volatile. So, what that means is that its price can one day go from, let's say, 200 million USD to down to something like 15 million USD, which in the process of that happening, basically, let's say like you put in $5 when it was like going up to like that 200 million figure. By the time it drops down to 15 million, if you have not sold cryptocurrency you have, you've lost money in that exchange. So that's what it means when the price is volatile, because you can like make so much one day, and then you just lose it all the next day. And also, because it is an unregulated thing, there's a significant lack of protections and rules that could otherwise used to be used to protect everyone involved in the process. So no regulations means no protections for consumers, no protections for the miners, no protections for, let's say, the company at the end of the day who receives cryptocurrency. So no regulations means no rules, kind of, which leads to a lot of problems that we'll get into. And also cryptocurrency mining, because of how energy intensive it is, because those PCs that are mining are doing so much, they require so much energy, because like solving these crazy math equations is that energy intensive. So because of that, you run into environmental and energy issues, which I'll also get more into later. But this is like the big and probably the most newsworthy thing about cryptocurrency that most people will probably have heard of if you've looked into the topic. Cryptocurrency is usually used for committing scams or committing fraud, unfortunately. One of the probably more high profile examples of it is with the Hawk Tuah girl, which if you don't know who she is someone who got popular through a TikTok interview where she made a sexual joke. And unfortunately, back in 2024, she decided to create her own meme coin called spell $Hawk. I'm just gonna call it Hawk coin or Hawk Tuah coin. Um, And unfortunately, what happened with that is when the coin finally went live, the price shot all the way up to 500 million US dollars. But the Hawk girl had something in place where she owned most of the, or she owned a large portion of the coins of the, she owned a large portion of coins that weren't actually available to the public when the coin went live. So what she did with those coins was she sold all of them. And because she sold all these coins, everyone else began selling these coins, and the price dropped, I believe, down to around 25 million US dollars. Which, as a result of that, a lot of people wound up losing a lot of money because the Hufflepuff girl pulled off what is known as a pump and dump scheme. And unfortunately, she was not the first person to do this, and she will not be the last person to do this either. I believe there have been some more pump and dump schemes since that happened back in December 2024, around there. But, so, with all that said, what can be done about cryptocurrency? Because from what I've said, it seems pretty bad. Well, cryptocurrencies as a whole need stronger regulations because without these regulations in place, people are going to continue to be hurt by scams. I didn't really touch on them, but fraud and theft is also a huge issue with cryptocurrency. So until there's more regulations to help consumers and help like everyone else involved in the process, people are going to continue to get hurt. And also, until there's also the issue with the price volatility, which probably could be solved with either regulations or maybe, let's say, a more central authority issuing currency. But that's a little bit difficult to accomplish, so I'll get into that in a second. But also, cryptocurrencies also need proof that they can protect consumer data and keep their money safe because fortunately, some cryptocurrencies recently have been involved in data breaches where people's, let's say, emails have gotten leaked. So that's not very good. So there's the issue of like consumer security, but there's also the issue of how if can people like directly mess with your money? Because remember, it's all digital. You don't have like a physical record saying that I own this. Instead you have like your digital wallet, which can be tampered with. So can consumers trust that their money will be safe? And unfortunately, cryptocurrency has not really answered these questions. And that brings me to my conclusion of all this, which is as long as cryptocurrency continues to have such drastic problems, it is never going to reach a mass appeal, and it is never going to be widely adopted. Because unfortunately, there's just too many problems, and like the average person's going to see, like if they see like all like the scams and stuff that goes on with cryptocurrency, they're gonna see, oh, people are losing how much money on this? I'm not gonna invest in it. I'm not gonna touch it because then I could lose my money. So, unfortunately, to deal with that, you have to work with regulations. You have to figure out the price volatility problem. And with regards to regulation in particular, because cryptocurrency is a global currency, you have to regulate it on a global scale. And at the moment, the world is not going to, absolutely not going to, globally regulate something. So, regulating cryptocurrency in like a more global fashion where everything's uniform rather than having to deal with the difficulties that come with country to country regulations with a global thing, or with a global thing. It's just not going to be happening anytime soon, I believe, unfortunately. And because of that, the current is going to have to keep dealing with these issues, unfortunately. This doesn't necessarily, like all the issues with cryptocurrency doesn't necessarily mean that the technology behind it doesn't have any use or that it's not valuable because like companies worldwide are investing into this blockchain technology, but that gets into the environmental issues where let's say you decide like your local company decides to invest into blockchain for some of their like needs. Well, what happens to the local population whose energy bills rise because the company is using more of their energy? Or what happens to the environment when these companies have to, are like mining their own Bitcoin or like doing their own blockchain verification, and they have to use more like local water, more energy, more all of that in order to like keep their operation running? Unfortunately, we haven't really been able to answer these questions so far, but that is just something to keep in mind with cryptocurrency. It is very hard to predict where it's going to be ending up in the future because, well, the future is the future. We don't really know how it's going to happen, where we're going to end up. But I hope it is full of more consumer protections, less blatant scams, and also more effort on people as a whole to work on financial literacy when it comes to cryptocurrency. Because cryptocurrency is a very complicated thing, and a lot of people probably aren't going to know all that much about it besides like, oh, that's just like money that people talk about on the news, like Bitcoin and stuff like that, or Dogecoin. They don't really know everything that goes on with currency or like how it all works, how it can hurt them, how they could invest in it. So I hope that in the future we do see more efforts to focus on financial literacy when it comes to cryptocurrency. Um, that is going to be all for me. I have my works selected page. I'm not going to read it off though, but I have it. And that's all for me.